Well, greetings, everyone. It's time for us to check back in and get back up to speed once again on many of the things that are going on. This time we'll be talking about things here at the Alcott campus in the U.S., and also, of course, things going on at Adyar. Here in the U.S., it really is one of the most lovely times of year, at least for me. Spring and fall are the two most beautiful times. Spring has finally come. The trees that were completely barren, looked as if they would never bloom again, have burst into bloom, and everything is really, really quite lovely right now. Get to show you some pictures of this spring, which just comes in an explosion. It's always so sudden. So that's going on, which means that we're having to do some outdoor things with our garden, our various gardens. Here in the U.S., of course, as around the world, Earth Day is a day that is acknowledged, and we organized a work party for all staff. Anyone who wanted to participate could go outside, put on some gloves and rake leaves and dig in the dirt. So we did a lot of work on that day. Really a wonderful day. We got good weather. Almost got rained out, but then the rain passed us by. So we were quite fortunate with that. Along with our gardens, probably some of you might have met someone who was a wonderful volunteer for the last 5 years, a lady by the name of Diane Hunter, who was completely responsible for the work done on our Buddha garden and other gardens all around the property. Met her 5 years ago. She wanted to come and just volunteer to trim some of the hedges. Turned out that she was, in fact, a master gardener and written up all around the area for her own Japanese garden in her backyard. She came here and would just work quietly and consistently, day in and day out during the summer. Hadn't seen Diane for a number of months. I went by her house, which is about an hour away from here, just because it had been so long since anybody had seen or heard from her, to find out that Diane Hunter had passed. So, wonderful volunteer. She really believed in the way that plants and color affected the whole vibration and feeling of the place. So I have been very fortunate during my time here to have had her to do the work that she has done, and she will be missed. Also, during the course of the month, was up in Detroit for my annual visit with the Detroit Lodge. That's something that's been going on now for I'm stopping counting, but I know it's at least 25 years. So that's always good. It's like coming back and seeing family. So I was up there for 2 days doing a workshop and also a public talk. Very active, very highly functional group. Also, I had been invited to give the keynote address for the Therapeutic Touch International Association, which is the healing modality that was founded right within this Theosophical Society by Dora Kuntz and then Dolores Krieger, who was in the Department of Nursing at New York University, NYU. She was the one who was able to introduce the academic side of it and actually do the scientific studies that made it absolutely undeniable that something is happening with this healing modality. Even though contemporary science as yet has not come around to what it is that how healing works, probably it's a mystery to us as well. But the fact that it does work is something that has been confirmed in test after test and scientific study after scientific study. So at this point, it's something that is taught in nursing schools. I think it's in 80 countries around the world. And so the International Congress had people from Turkey, Rwanda, Italy, Spain, Canada, a number of countries from around the world. Lovely occasion for me because, of course, Dora Kuntz was out here at Alcott for 12 years. And during that time, I had 12 years to be closely exposed to her, who she is as a person, her teachings, and also to the therapeutic touch work. So that was something that was really quite an enjoyable experience for me. And also to meet with Dolores Krieger, who is 95 years old. and just as sharp and insightful as you could ever imagine. So anyway, some images of that. So as always, I do hope you enjoy. Well, spring has arrived finally at our Olcott campus here in Illinois, and it's always such a wonderful time of year. It's so sudden and so explosive almost. Things go from completely bare branches to an explosion of growth, greenery, flowers, and year after year, it's just such a beautiful time, such a beautiful place to be. This year, we saw beautiful things. This plant, within 1 week, turned into this plant. And the flowers within it are ready to bloom now, within the next week. This little tightly wound purple bud on the tree turned into this one within 1 day's time. And then within a week's time, they were starting to turn to the green leaves that will fill the tree for the rest of the summer. What it means at our campus is that the gardens become prepared. So the Prairie School kids were out working in their gardens, led by Liz Wesley, who is a master gardener and has worked with the children to the point they just love it. So they would be out digging the ground, preparing the soil for the crops that they're going to plant over the course of the summer. And always they have a really abundant harvest that they get from their small patch of ground in the gardens that we have there on our campus. They do a great job, and the kids have come to love it. It's also a time when more and more of the kids are outside, so you get a chance to just spend time with them, just being a nut. My wife Lily always works with the kids, and in their most recent field notes for the school, they said Miss Lily strikes again, which is what the kids always say when she brings them sweets and things like that. On our own campus, Mark Remick led us in a day of work party on the campus to try and just clean up some of the things that had happened during the course of the winter. Found some nice duck eggs that had been laying underneath one of the bushes. It was a chance for us just to get together and do some real physical work. Yours truly. I miss doing this sort of thing. So the Buddha shrine, which our own Diane Hunter put in, she has recently passed, so we're going to dedicate this shrine to her. At Adyar, we're still taking away wood from December's cyclone, the 27th truckload. The ambassador from Afghanistan visited us and enjoyed his time at the place. Our editorial office has moved to new quarters, really quite nice quarters, and so they had a celebratory puja for the staff as they moved in. Big thing we're doing there now is our Besant Memorial Animal Dispensary has really taken on new life. We have a whole group of volunteers, very active young people who have come in to clean it up. And they had a volunteers day at which 60 people showed up to clean the dogs, to de-flea them, de-tick them, and to give dogs the injections for rabies, which many of them just don't have. So this is something that's going to be ongoing. Our Adyar campus has a lot of wildlife, including snakes and jackals. Most people think jackal, and if you haven't been exposed to it, you think it's some huge hyena-ish animal. Actually, a jackal is really much like a fox. Some of the people there at the campus will put out water and rice and curd for the jackals, and so some of them do come to actually feed. And so this film was caught of these wild animals, actually wild in an urban setting. And for about the 25th year in a row, I traveled up to the Detroit area to the Theosophical Society to meet with the group, had a meal together, and then had a chance to speak. Mary Jo Kokachak is the current president, a longtime Theosophical member with time in Crotona and elsewhere. So it's 2 days, generally, an evening public talk, and then a Saturday morning workshop that we do. This time we wanted to focus on healing and the healing arts. Also, while I was there, I had a chance to visit with the establishment of Jewel Heart that was established by recently deceased Gilek Rinpoche, a longtime teacher and friend who established a wonderful, he was an authentic teacher of Tibetan Buddhism, who established a wonderful center in the Detroit area that goes on after his passing. Gelek Rinpoche will be missed by many, many people. I've been invited to be the keynote speaker at the Therapeutic Touch International Association's international conference that is being held here in the Chicago area. So I met with some of their board of directors. Dolores Krieger, one of the founders, along with Dora Kuntz, of the Therapeutic Touch method, one of the ones who was able to get it into really the nursing schools around the world and 80 countries around the world, was there. Dolores is 95 years old now, and she's just as sharp and as brilliant as you could imagine. Leonie Van Gelder, who is actually Dora Kuntz's grand niece, was there, and a number of other people. Deepening our practice as compassionate healers was the topic. Marilyn Johnson, the representative here in Illinois, and Janet Weir is one of our Quest authors. So I had a chance to speak to them. For me, it was very pleasant, because to talk about the foundations of the movement, about Dora Kuntz's involvement, also about Dolores Krieger. I had a wonderful chance to just chat with Dolores about not just memories, but visions for the future of this therapeutic touch movement. And she's also a long-time Theosophical Society member. As I found out, were many of the actual nurses who are the healers, which is composed of many nurses who are involved in this movement. So got a chance to talk with many of them, and actually to sit down and hear Dolores talk about compassion as the key ingredient in this therapeutic touch method. And also a little about the history of Dolores and Dora founding this movement. It actually started at our Pumpkin Hollow farm as the first Nurses Invitational. Dora was the one who developed the technique. She had been with C.W. Leadbeater as a young girl. She's written many books, many of which you all are all familiar with. So I want to close with Dora speaking about therapeutic touch.
I think the most important thing for the healer to learn is, and this is the new viewpoint which we developed in therapeutic touch, that we can project upon another person an energy which we can call the healing energy. I suppose the most important is to have a direct feeling of compassion towards a person, because finally the driving motivation must be that of compassion. One should learn, and we call it centering, that just before one tries to help someone, one should deliberately, for 1 second, disassociate ourselves from whatever is a worrisome thought, withdraw one's energies to the center, which we can call the heart, and learn, first of all, by being absolutely quiet and still for a very few moments. After that, with our fundamental belief that each person has an inner self or a whole self, to associate ourselves and feel united to that sense of wholeness within ourselves. And when Dolores and I got this idea that we could teach it to others, we thought of nurses, they all said it was impossible. They felt this was a divine gift almost to them, and that it wasn't possible to teach other people. And I said, no, I didn't agree. And that I thought that we could develop a technique with most people. I will not say everybody can learn to use in some form. And so we had our first healing workshop for nurses in which we worked out this technique. And most people, when they see somebody, whether mentally deranged or physically very much in pain, we are taught to observe the symptoms of that illness. But I think if we have the right healing attitude, we are aware of the disturbances due to pain or psychological abnormalities. But at the back of our mind, being aware of it, we reach out and send that healing energy, and we think of that in our own thoughts of the person as whole, but whole at all levels.